Hello, you legends. I don't know if you guys can even see us, but we've got some lighting here. And so we're going to, we're going to just go under the light here.
The neighborhood has
really
new lighting.
A little better.
In the street lamps.
All right, you legends. We will get more clips when the sun comes up. Legends, we're on Kirkendall. Let's go this way. We're about probably 1 kilometer from the ride start. Since the sun has come up, I wanted to get you guys to see our kit. We're sporting the teal blended with the purple. You see how the top blends with the bottom?
That's the Pro Team Aero jersey.
There's a rider over there. That
from
looks
Rafa.
like what more called Champousson. Yeah. Champousson
We saw
is
a rider go
in
by.
the World Tour. Yeah. I was watching a race and I heard his name being called. I said, that's the guy Mo was talking with about Champousson. Maybe because that guy rides like with the same style or something. That's probably what he meant.
Everything Mo says has a reason, so I was trying to decipher that. I may be off, but so Paul's off the road there, so we can take up just half. He thought there were a lot of cars behind us. It's just one. Once he sees that it's clear, he gets on the road. We both have mirrors on our bike.
Can I get some clips for you all? Should be an interesting day. Some new roads are promised. We'll see.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We rolled into the woodlands, picked up Team RR. There was a bit of a delay in the parking lot. Once we got going, we headed down Fishcreek. You feel the pace was good. It was foggy. We went all the way to 105, headed east. The group went straight. We cut through the neighborhood. We hooked back up with the group and went all through Willis, Longmire Road earlier, and then Shepherd Hill, where you see there, all the way to the lake. Came back down, crossed I-45, south past Willis, went down the area near Crichton Road through Con Road. There were a lot of twists and turns, but it was nice to kind of visit different roads. All of that is off camera. We filmed until we got to Highway 830, and that's kind of when we ended the filming. But I think you will enjoy the clips that we did get for you. It was a nice excursion. We visited, I guess, the plains, I would call it.
All right, legends, we're at Crust.
We're in the Allen Village Center in the Woodlands, Texas.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
This is Mike S5 on the right. That's Doug Shot on the left there. Doug and his brother Greg. Greg's not here today. He rides with us from time to time. Doug's got a 3T gravel bike. We find out Mark in the white jersey there is having a mechanical. You heard my comment.
I may smell like Cabernet.
Monday maintenance. Maintenance Monday. Or Wednesday, or Tuesday, or Thursday.
We may get some high cadence drills today.
Yeah.
Small chain.
And Mark is not a spinner, so he's stuck on a small chainring right now. As if his electronic is a manual shifter. Doug said he lost his cable.
He lost his cable. That doesn't happen very often.
That was right in.
This is not a... Well, I guess your cable can break or whatever, but Mark's bike is the noisiest bike in the group, and I mentioned it off camera. Everybody was laughing. Paul was a little embarrassed, but here Doug is giving us the route. We turned the camera off for a bit. You could look at the clock, 7:32. Doug's giving the route, and I'm going to mention this. I thought they were done. I thought because they're no longer working on Mark's bike, as you can see, he's standing there. But apparently somebody was gone to go get him a twist tie to keep the front derailleur on the big chainring. And we don't find out about it until in a little bit I would say, okay, let's go, because I think they're done. Nobody said anything. And he's going to say, oh, no, somebody's getting me a twist tie. Well, I don't know how you get a twist tie to hold a front derailleur on there when the chain has to go around the chain ring. That's not going to work. It's going to be in the way. So I did not get that part. I didn't say anything after that. You would see us just wait. So you see the duration is 45 minutes. We rode 45 minutes to get here. And right now it's not so bad. I think we're done. We're ready to go.
Over 60 miles. That's good. When we stop at Taco, like, we just warmed up. Yeah, exactly. So let's do this.
So yeah, so somebody asked if we were going to stay with them, and I said, yeah, every time you go over 60 miles, we'll stay with you.
I thought it's okay, actually.
They're talking about construction on 1097, and I think it's fine.
Well, let's do that route. Well, let's do Doug's route.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that.
So I'm ready to go. Right here, right here.
They're bringing me a zip tie.
Then he said, oh, they're bringing me a zip tie. This is the first I've heard of it. So now we're going to turn around. We're waiting for this zip tie. At this point, it did not register with me. But as a mechanic, I'm starting to think, well, wait a minute. How do you get a zip tie to hold the derailleur, the front derailleur to the right without interfering with the chain moving around the chain ring? So I just kind of kept that to myself. Because I work on bikes all the time. And I was like, you know, I don't profess to know everything, but I wouldn't suggest that to anybody. Because the zip tie will be in the way. What do you tie the zip tie to?
Yeah.
You have to tie the zip tie to a chain ring. So we're talking about our kit. And what I'm telling Paul is, Paul and I came up with this combination because we got these colorized kits, I call them, from Rafa. And we don't use them much because there are very specific things that they go with.
It's another one that I don't know what we're going to put with that, because some of these, you got to be careful with that green, because sometimes it clashes. Yeah,
I know.
So yeah, I don't want anything looking crazy. I don't want to just wear stuff that doesn't kind of blend. So it takes a special investment of time to put things together. So that's what we're discussing, and we came up with something. We use actually the design cues from Rafa to come up with this combination, because the teal you see us wearing is actually on the leg of the pants. You will see me spin around and tell Paul, oh, actually, we did that off camera. But here, look at the clock, 7:46. We got there at 7:30, so 16 minutes later, we're leaving. That is not proper group etiquette. When you go to a group ride, guys, boys and girls, make sure your bike is tuned and ready, because you go in there to ride. Most rides, you will be left in the parking lot. So, you remember I mentioned about this zip tie they were getting him? In a few kilometers, he's going to tell me, oh, Elder, go ahead and get in. We're on Fishcreek at that time. He said, Elder, go ahead and get in because I'm stuck in the front chain ring. That resonated with me because I could not wrap my brain around where you would attach the zip tie to keep the front derailleur over the big chain ring without interfering with the chain. You have to tie it to something on the right. Those of you who mess with bikes in your garage, you know what I'm talking about. You can't tie it to something on the left to push it to the right. So the zip tie idea that someone came up with, that we waited for, was proven false. But it didn't tell anybody. We just took off 16 minutes later. So we wasted 16 minutes. The way my brain works, Paul and I think the same way. In 16 minutes, we would have covered 6 to 7 miles, even at a casual pace. So we lost kilometers that we could have put in our legs. That's the way I look at it. It's riding time. So service your bike, come to the ride, be ready to go. That's proper group etiquette. So it's just that, you know, you can't show up. Don't show up very late, because a lot of times the group may be gone. And even if they're not gone, you're not going to be the most popular person because they got to wait for you. There's only one ride a week. You can't show up on time. I mean, come on. You know, it's a Saturday ride. If you want to do it, get there early, because you take the stress off of you. And everybody else are not, you know, they're not going to be delayed. You don't want to be that odd man out causing the group to be delayed. So We started out later than we normally do, you know. And this is not an occurrence all the time, but I prefer to not be that guy. If I have a problem with my bike, I'm going to tell the group to go. Especially if it's a problem that just popped up and it's major and I can't fix it quickly, they need to go. Because you can't always maintain your bike to where you will avoid every catastrophic issue. But I made the camera off-site and Paul wanted to crawl into a hole because I said, this bike has been the noisiest bike in the peloton for the last 4 to 6 months. So I'm not surprised something broke. And then ironically, he has to ride the small chain ring today. But then on Sunday, I rode with them again. Paul was not riding on Sunday. His bike was still noisy, even though he had resolved the issue with the front chain ring. It had the most creaks. And usually it's the bottom bracket and its interface. You know, those push, the bottom brackets that you push fit, you have to make sure the tolerances are perfect. And if not, you got to use the proper, you know, bonding agent to get rid of those noises. So yesterday, Mark's bike was a cacophony of sound every time he pedaled. I couldn't live with a bike like that. That's just me. I don't want to hear anything. I want to just hear my tires on the pavement. So I'm saying this so that those of you who watch this film know that maintain your bike, be ready for the ride, be there on time, so that you're under no stress, pressure, you don't interfere with the natural flow of your group's ride. As I say this, I want to give a shout out to all our fans on YouTube, especially our fans in the beautiful city of San Diego, California. I got some feedback yesterday from a rider, Doug, who has spoken to Paul H. Most of you know Paul H. He's one of our senior riders in the group. And there's a gentleman out there who's a fan of Veloharmony that's thinking about possibly moving to the Woodlands area because he's seen the Woodlands on this film and he thinks, yeah, the Woodlands is a great place to live. I mean, that's why people live there, you know. But yeah, if you're coming over here, definitely welcome. It was great to hear that they're fans of the channel. They're thrilled. They watch these videos. They watch our content. And so I wanted to give a shout out to, once again, the Veloharmony fans in the San Diego area. It's a beautiful city. I've been there on business. I love the weather. The winds off the Pacific keeps things kind of cool, you know. That you can go inland and mix it up. But beautiful place. So we're appreciative of your support for the channel. This ended up being a very short light here because I guess based on when we got there is a little busier here right now. We got a car going there, so the light was just functioning.
Yeah, that's why he picked up that paint.
So yeah, I got some kind of scuff on my white shoe, and I was explaining to Paul that it's something that will come off with Goo Gone. Goo Gone's one of my favorite adhesive removers because it's not as toxic or caustic to whatever you're working on, and it smells like citrus. And so I use it a lot to get rid of, you know, adhesives and other things. So somebody turned in here, right there. He turned in there, and I don't know why. Let's go, Paul, let's go. I don't know why you were turning in there. There's nobody in there. You know, and the reason he turned in there is because that's the guy on the left. That's Mike Weingrad. He rides from Lake Windcrest on 1488, and he waits there usually. But I'm thinking, why are you turning in there? He should be meeting the group. The group shouldn't go pick him up. So these guys got things backwards. That's why I told Paul, let's just keep going. They'll catch up. It's time to ride. You're going to meet the group. You hook up with the group. Why should the group turn into a parking lot to pick you up? I got time, but these guys like to stop too much sometimes. When I get on a bike, I want to go ride. When I ride solo, I leave with enough time. I take all my water that I need. I go for 90 minutes or 60 minutes, however much time I have. I don't stop anywhere. I just go and I do that because 45 to 60 minutes of continuous riding is more effective than 3 hours stopping at every corner in the country. So just keep that in mind. That's why a lot of riders, you may have heard, prefer during the week just put the bike on the trainer, do a 30-minute workout or whatever, because it's very effective than dealing with stop signs and other stuff if you have a route where you're stopping and turning all the time, because you don't keep the effort high. So when you get out to ride, keep riding. That's why the WCC boys frown on all these stops. They want to get the effort elevated and sit in and keep it going. You don't need to stop. You can just drop the effort and keep rolling. So, keep that in mind. That keeps you more efficient in maximizing your time. You don't need to ride a lot of hours to be fit. But the time that you do ride, you need to make it effective. So in the parking lot, what I was telling them, somebody had asked, are you guys going to stay with us, meaning Paul and I? I said, yes, whenever you guys do 60 miles, I stay with you because they ride at least 35 miles, which is almost, say, 55, 60 kilometers before they stop to refill or whatever. That's better for us because when they ride just to Taco Corner, my bottles are still full when they get there. So I don't need anything from the store, don't need to drink, so why am I stopping? We really should be stopping on the way back when we go to Taco. That's what I said in the parking lot. So yeah, that's what Paul was saying, they were stopping for Mike. Why are we stopping for Mike? If Mike's in that parking lot and he sees the group, he needs to clip in and join the group. You shouldn't have to pull in there for him.
I think it was with the Gerry.
I saw Gerry.
Yeah.
It's funny, you hear me say I saw Gerry. As we passed where that guy turned in, Gerry was already on the side street coming to the group. So here's Gerry coming to the group. They're pulling into the parking lot to look for Mike. We don't need to look for Mike. Mike needs to look for us. Hint, hint. That's my wheel mount. There's these zip wheels, the paws that have a unique sound. And my little 8-year-old said they're noisier than my other wheels. And I told her, she said, this bike is noisy. I was lubing the bike, getting it ready for the weekend. The bike's noisy, Dad. I said, it's not the bike, sweetie, it's the wheels. She said, I like the other bike, it doesn't make as much noise. I said, well, look at it this way. All the drivers will hear me when I'm freewheeling. I said, since I don't have a bell, if I'm on the path, I can freewheel to alert the other users. And she has a logical mind like I do. She said, oh, okay, that makes sense. She said, but in the house, it's very noisy. I said, yeah. I said, but right now, I'm just trying to get it ready for the weekend. It had been sitting for quite a while, so when your bike sits for a long time, you don't want to just jump on it and go ride. You got to check it. So I basically re-lubed the bottom bracket, re-lubed the headset. I was already replacing all the cables. You'll hear me tell Gerry in a few kilometers, Jerry's going to ask, he's going to say, I haven't seen this bike in a while, And then I explained to him what I was doing. So we're riding along in a few kilometers, someone will say, oh, wow, you guys are matching. Was it an accident? I did not realize it was Gerry. And this happened last week. Someone asked the same question. It wasn't Gerry, it was another rider. You see my cadence there? Triple digits. I use that to get up to these guys because the pace is now picking up. It's early in the ride. Use your cadence when you're accelerating. That's what I titled this, How to Use Cadence in Cycling. But just to finish that thought, last week somebody asked, oh, you guys are matching, is it an accident? And Gerry asked the same question, similar question. So I did not look back at the time. I didn't realize it was Gerry, but Paul answered him because they were slightly behind me. And then Gerry asked about the shorts, and he said, how can I get a pair of those purple shorts, Eldred? I said, well, give Rafa your money. At that time, I didn't know it was Gerry. Then he laughed. Then he rides up alongside me. You'll see that. And then I said, oh, it's you, Gerry. And we started to chat about his bike. Gerry brought one of his bikes for me to restore, a 35-year-old bike with down tube shifters. It was a Trek, an aluminum bike. It needed paint work. as well as pretty much everything. That's Mike. Mike said good morning. I was concentrating. I just kind of nodded my head. I don't like to encourage Mike to talk with me too much because he talks about stuff that's really off topic and not significant. You're going to notice today I will spend a lot of time talking. I'm talking to Gerry. Gerry is definitely a more interesting individual in terms of he talks about what's happening now during the ride. He talks about stuff that pertains to how we can improve what we're doing, not just off the wall stuff, if you know what I mean. Like, there are certain topics that are just not interesting to you. You know, why am I talking about space flight and I'm riding a bicycle? I'm just using that as an analogy. So Gerry's conversation was definitely more interesting, and we were at the back, and we just spent a lot of time talking, and we made sure we did not leave a gap. That's another thing I want to talk about when we're riding. If you're going to be chatting in the line, make sure you keep the gap close, or be the last rider or riders. That's very important. So you don't cause other people to get gapped, and then when you do decide to bridge up, you drop them, or they have to come around you and close a large gap. So I'm very cognizant of that. So to make a long story short, Gerry talks about real stuff, and the guy in front of me talks about stuff that's kind of fluffy, if you know what I mean. Not real. Like some people say, I'm going to call you this evening, then they don't call. Oh, I'll call you back, they don't call you back. That kind of stuff. No follow through. Gerry's the real deal. Gerry talks about stuff he means, and Gerry talks about stuff that matters. So anyway, I'll leave that alone. All right, let's get back to this business of what we're doing here. As you can see, these boys are late for something, I guess. Maybe all that work in the parking lot there, delayed us, and they figured it would get going. Now look at my feet here. You see how it looks like I'm slapping the pedals? Let's wait till we get going again. This light is very short, so I usually back off. But I had to unclip. Paul and I both unclip. We're side by side right here. I was already in my gear that I needed to take off when the light was red. You need to start downshifting as you slow down, just like you would in a car that has a standard. This is where Mike tells me, Mark says, get in front, Eldred. I'm stuck to the small chain ring. And that's when I realized that idea with the zip tie did not work, which I suspected when I was in the lot, but I did not want to interfere in what they were doing, He was getting assistance, so I stayed out of it. You see how I caught up to this guy? I kept my cadence in the triple digits. Don't do that all day long. You need to know what you're comfortable handling. And then once you get in, you kind of shift up, especially if the group is going to maintain the pace. Use the cadence for acceleration or bridging or attacking or opening gaps. It's like a sports car. You rev to the rev limit, and then you shift up so the tachometer can come back within range, your efficient range. That's what's fun about training. You have to find your efficient range for your engine. Some people got big engines, some people have smaller motors. So you've got to make sure you know what you have and what you can tolerate. You can't just go follow somebody else's training plan, put a lot of load on your motor if your body can't handle it. It can actually cause your fitness to get worse. At any level of cycling, you got to be careful what kind of load you put on yourself. I like this view that Paul is employing. Tonight we can see people in the back and nobody's going to be posing. That's nice. So I'm right at sweet spot at this point. For this ride anyway, my legs just felt tired the whole ride. Didn't really feel like myself. I actually felt better on Sunday. I think I had too many days off. Didn't ride that much during the week, just busy with other stuff. You know, October is the month to kind of catch up on other things, and that's what I've been doing. So in the next week or so, I'll be getting back into a steadier program. This is where Abby's drifting back again, and it's off camera because Paul had the camera switched to the back. I had told him when he was drifting back, I said, you like sitting in the wind so much, why don't you go help pull the group? It's like he never pulls the group. Always want to be drifting back, then announcing that I'm doing 500 miles a week. Who cares? You're doing it. We don't care. I don't need 500 miles a week to ride well. You know, everybody's different. Do your miles, keep it to yourself. Good broadcasting. So you're gonna do 500 miles a week, then I want to see you at the front pulling. Don't tell me you're doing 500 miles a week and keep riding backwards. When we start going, I'm going to talk about my feet and how it looked. Somebody's greeting us from across the boulevard there. So you will see here what happens is we get a lot of people that drift back, and then at the lights, they change positions. Everybody wants to sit in the back. So right here, I decide, okay, I'm going to be in the back. Because I didn't feel like riding that hard today. So I started to ride slowly to encourage people to go by. You see them going by on the right? But we got Abby, who loves to be the last man. Now, there is one exception to this thing. Gerry, who you will see come to talk to me in a few kilometers, sits at the back because what he does is he'll let the group go, say like maybe 3 kilometers up the road, and then he'll do a KOM. So Gerry does his KOMs behind the group, which enables him to catch up to the group, as opposed to going to the front and trying to do KOMs or intervals at the front of the group because he's going really fast. So that works for him. That's what he does. And Gerry will pull when necessary. That's Abby you're hearing laughing. I'm on the left, Paul's on the right on the shoulder. I'm on the left by the wide line. They're coming in between us because we just kept going slower and slower. And now I got on their wheel. And I'm going to wait for Paul. Now, what I'm doing here, I don't do all the time because you got to work when you leave these kind of gaps. I mean, I'm working to get up here. That's fine. But I wanted to sit at the back for a while as opposed to going up there and dictating any kind of pace. I want to see what they're doing. Now, look at my feet. Every time I say look at my feet with soft pedaling. But I want you to watch how it looks like I'm wearing flip-flops and slapping the pedals. When your cleats are adjusted correctly, that's the way your feet need to look.
You guys are acting today, huh? Hey.
This is where Gerry, I didn't know it was Gerry. I just heard him say, you guys are matching today. Now he's gonna ask me how can I get one.
Thanks, man.
He said it looks good.
How do I get those purple cycling shorts?
So I said give Raphael money, but I didn't see that it was Gerry. I was watching Mike's wheel because he stood up. I'm always watching the person in front of me because my front wheel is in danger all the time. Your front wheel is fragile. So he's still talking, but I'm watching Mike S5. And he said, that's why he said, I haven't seen that bike for a while. I still don't know it's Gerry. That right there, look, now I know it's him.
Find out a new product or something? I haven't seen him carry a tire like that before. No, he has headed. Let's put this bike on me.
So Doug is asking Paul Ilonga here. The 4 of us are at the back of the group. Doug is asking Paul, is Elder trying something different? I haven't seen him carry a tire like that. Paul explained to him, I've always had sew-ups. He said he always had this tire on the bike I'm riding has sew-ups. Some people call them tubs or tubulars or whatever. But I have the tire tied under the saddle on this ride. Most of the time I carry it in a toolkit made out of 2 bottles, old school style. Sometimes I'll wrap it around my body, the one that I'm carrying. So I have an extra tire that's in a bottle that I just put the bottle on the bike. But this was a longer ride, so I didn't want to take up my bottle cage. I needed 2 bottles so Paul and I wouldn't stop. So the tire is there, but that thing is not super secure. We went in an area where it got real bumpy and it fell off. So I had to go back and pick it up. But most of the time I carry them in my jersey pocket, but on this ride I was carrying other stuff. That's why you see it there. Back in the day we tied it like that. On this saddle it's not as tight because of that little white SMP badge that you see. It kind of gets in the way of the tubular. So I have it up against the seat post and strapped with a leather toe clip strap. That's how it's connected, old school style. So next time I do it, if I have to carry it like that, I will put the strap on me. I don't know who's back there, but some people from the group are off the pace. Now, you're going to find out that we start to talk, and the reason why I find it interesting is because Gerry's talking about stuff I care about. He's talking about our bikes. He's talking about how long they were waiting for us at the Aldi, things that relate to the function of the ride and so forth. Then we start to talk about his bike. He's going to bring his bike to the shop for us to fix the water bottle boss on his Cervelo frame has basically fallen in per se. He just has a hole there. They call them rivet nuts. The rivet nut is gone. And he said someone had worked on it a year ago and made the hole bigger. So I told him, well, we can either use a larger rivet nut. And, I told him, I said, well, I've got solutions. I've got options. And I may just add some carbon just in that area just to put the same size rivet nut or use a larger rivet nut. But fix it to where it's more permanent. The last repair he had done lasted a year. Well, that's the reason why it should last a year. It should last a lot longer than that. So the reason why his conversation is important is twofold. As you see here, no watts being applied. We're going somewhat downhill. This ride is not easy. In a few kilometers, maybe 5 kilometers, I'll tell Gerry, I said, man, we're going pretty fast to be doing all this talking. And then he laughs. Then he says, I'm sorry. I said, no, it's okay. It takes my mind off of riding. We're riding above 40-something kilometers an hour. We're talking. After we get into past the overpass, that's when that happens. But what we're talking about, he's showing me he has a tape on his down tube that covers that hole. And that's what he's telling me, that this is the bike he wants to bring to the shop for me to basically do a tune up and fix some other stuff. And it's got the famous creak in the bottom bracket. He has a specific brand of bottom bracket he heard about. I told him, well, send me the name. I'll look it up and see if it works for your frame as far as the tolerance, the sizing, and so forth. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Now, why is this interesting? Gerry's one of the few people in this group who actually patronize Veloharmony. So a lot of these guys will take their bikes elsewhere. They want to come ask me a question about it. That's not going to happen. Go question the person who worked on your bike. So Gerry brought a big project of a 35-plus-year-old bike that he's putting back in action. We've already restored it and turned it back to him. It needed paint work and all kinds of stuff, and we ended up basically making the bike look new, giving it new life like they do on that automotive show, Wheeler Dealers. Brought it back to life, and he's really excited about that. So now he wants to bring the S5 he's riding to get it revived, because when he stands, it makes a lot of noise. So I believe that a combination of the bottom bracket, the wheel clearings, all of that kind of stuff, because these frames have limits to what they can do. So then he starts to talk about, I want to put a 54 on that when we go past the overpass. And well, you kind of limited. You will see us chatting about that. You're limited to what your front derailleur can accommodate based on whether you've got a band on or a brace on, all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting stuff to talk about. It kind of makes sense to be talking about it now as opposed to fluffy things that matter to no one. You can see we're doing almost 600 watts here. Somebody turned the screw right here on this climb after we're almost 3/4 of the way up. Gerry's not getting dropped. He's just holding his pace. Gerry can ride back to the group anytime he wishes. He's just trying to, whatever gear he may be in, he's trying not to overdo it at that moment, I guess, because Gerry wants to ride a 55. Talking about he used to race the 55 back in the day. Man, I told him that's too big, but I think he has a 52 on there, which is what I'm riding right now. This bike has a 3652, and so I use slightly larger cogs in the back. It's a 1125 in the back. So I will ride at 5217 when in essence in the past I would use on another bike 5318 or 19, you know. So it's kind of like you've got to make sure that you're staying with your rhythm. So we're on McCaleb Road, and you can see we're still talking. We're not riding easily here. I'm a little below sweet spot, and we're talking. And normally I like to just concentrate on riding, but we're talking about stuff that's interesting. But you notice we're maintaining the gaps. And this can be disconcerting to others, you know, if they're struggling and you guys back there talking. So, you know, for me, I'm like, okay, we're talking about what we're going to do when he dropped off his bike, and I want to make sure that he's got another bike to ride because I don't like to rush to do anything. I like to take my time and do it right. I want to do it right the first time.
Guys up back there, right? Dana and Mark, I think we're training to drop off.
So Mark and Dana are off the back right now. I think they will catch up.
Okay.
That's what Paul was asking Doug.
He's building up. Okay, let's see.
What Doug is saying is that Dana is building up, meaning he's doing mostly endurance rides. So if you look at my feet, they look like I'm slapping the pedals. That's the way it should feel. Like you're on the beach in flip-flops. Because if you're restricted in any manner on that connection to the pedals, you can injure your knee. Your knee should be free, your legs should be free. So we're talking about what he's got in the attachment. This is why he told me he wants a 55. I told him I don't know. You know, you don't want to buy the 55 first to find out it won't fit. So you want to look at the manufacturer's specs. So I told him, what do you have? You have a braze on, and which he does. You can't put there's no band for that shape of the bike. So he's got a braze on. I have a band on this bike. So I showed him that with my band on, I can go as high as I want. This guy with this jersey, the SPR, we caught up to him after the overpass. He was on the road. He's not riding with us. He sits in there. I don't know who he's racing, but he decides he's going to go. And in about a couple of kilometers, he will do a U-turn to go back wherever it is he was going. So be careful who you follow when you're on your rides. He's not with this plan. We're going out to northeast Montgomery County today. We're going to Willis, Texas, and there's a road I've never been on called Shepherd Hill. Ended up being really pretty. We didn't get it on camera. Next time we go, we will. So Gerry started complimenting us on the kit. It's not easy putting these colors together. You have to make sure they work, or they can just look a bit odd.
Oh, I know the feeling.
So Doug and Paul are talking about the fact Doug is saying that his college-age kids are visiting and they've taken over the house. So you got to go buy more food. You know, they eat a lot. That's what Paul's saying. You got to get more virgin. Paul's been through the same thing. So we're back here chatting and we're moving at 49 kilometers an hour. And I'm like, okay. This is slightly downhill. You can see my heart rate is in zone 1. It's slightly downhill. We've got a slight tailwind. So this is an opportunity for you to, you know, drink, do whatever. And then I tell Gerry, I said, man, I didn't realize we're going this fast. That was before we got here. Now the road's going up.
Okay.
But overall, the ride was easier, just overall. And so I focused more on making sure that I use cadence where possible.
They're all gone.
Kept my rhythm steady.
Youngest is a boy.
You can see we're back to 40K.
And, he's still in the college doing his master in the
This is a slight downhill. It says -2.
My daughter just finished and got married. She lives in Conroe. Yeah.
Where's your son at school? Huh? Where's your son at school?
Baylor. Yeah. Baylor University.
Yeah, I know the hill. It's like 15 minutes.
The road's flat here. So even though we're doing all this chatting, I've got my eye on the wheel in front of me all the time. You still have to, you can glance at your person you're chatting with, but your main focus needs to be on the wheel you're following. The larger the group, the even more urgency is involved in making sure you're keeping your eye on that wheel in front of you, because you can fall if you don't. Wheels can touch in a matter of moments.
Public health. So they've had a couple case studies in the last couple of years, huh?
So at this corner that's coming up, surprisingly, Abby goes left. He says nothing to anyone and just goes left. He's got to work on his social skills, because he was in the parking lot talking about we're doing Doug's route. That's the guy doing a U-turn that just joined the group when we caught up to him. And now he's going back wherever he was going. So we just turn right. He's sitting at the light on the left there, going to Taco Corner, I guess. I guess he's not doing part of his 500 miles today. Be wary of the people who talk too much. They don't do as much. Focus more on the guys who are quiet in your group that show by their actions, because talk is cheap. If somebody's riding a lot, you'll see it. You don't need to hear about it. The ones that do all the talking, they ain't doing much. Just like those of you who've been to college, you know how it is. The people who are talking in college about getting all this action, they ain't getting any. I'll move on. This is a family channel. So in a few kilometers, I'm going to suggest to Gerry that he get in front of me, because this is one of the roads that has a lot of small debris. It may look clean, but there are a lot of small things you can't see at speed that can cause flats. So I've had a flat on this road. In fact, a piece of glass cut my Rene Hurst tires like early in their life, and I hate that. So I'd suggest to Gerry, why don't you get in front of me? And, you know, I said, there's a lot of stuff on this road. It's probably after we go up this hill. We start to go up this hill, I get into a rhythm. I'm trying to stay in the same gear to work my legs. The ride has been relatively easy, so I'm not doing too much shifting right now. I think I'm gonna ride in front of Gerry right here. I lift the pace a little bit. We're coming to a light, so I'm trying to stay close. You see the light is yellow as we go through. So those are the things I pay attention to, regardless of how much we're talking. I'm watching to see what the group's doing. This is where I think I'm gonna tell him. So I just told him, I said, there's a lot of crap on this road. Why don't you get in front of me? Because you'll have a flat before you even know it. So much stuff. When I'm riding, I'm always reading the road. I avoid as many pieces of debris that's visible to me as possible. I'm always looking for the cleanest spot to ride. One of the riders on this ride, his name is Jonathan, he mentioned at the stop, he said, yeah, you know, it's like I worry about having a flat when I'm riding tubulars, because I think he probably either has them or has had them. And I just told him, I said, you know, I get the tires when they're on sale, and I don't worry about it. Then he said, yeah, they're a lot of fun to ride. The feel of the tubulars, I mean, I know the clinchers have come a long way, but there's just something about them. I'm riding the Continental Competition brand right now. I like them. They're pretty nice. I have some Victorias and some Veloflex. So when they're worn, I will try those. But what I like about them is they use the butyl tubes, and so they hold the air pressure longer than the latex. And that's a nice change. Because regular tubulars, you have to pump them up all the time, which is not a big deal, but you know, it's just a nice change. So, because I don't ride this bike that often. This bike feels more, how can I say, it feels more like a race car. It's like driving a Ferrari when I ride this bike. And when I ride the blue bike, feels like I'm driving like an M3 for you dimmer files. And then the Colnago feels like a 740 IL. Oh man. Automobiles. So in a kilometer or so, somebody's gonna have a problem, and we're not gonna figure out why till later. But you know, I spoke to him later in a ride, and he said that his chain got jammed between the largest gear ratio, which is the smallest physical cog in the rear, and the frame, the dropout. And once that happens, you got nothing, and you don't want to keep pedaling because it just gets wedged in there and will tear up your paintwork or whatever. So he stops immediately and gets off, and that's a minor adjustment that needed to be done. I don't know if he did it or not, or just put the chain back. So I asked Gerry if he's okay, because Jerry's still fighting the long-term effects. After you get COVID, it leaves a footprint behind. It really affected his lungs when he had it. So I wanted to make sure he was okay. Jerry's one of those that has a huge diesel engine. It takes a lot of load for him to get his body going. So he rides lots of kilometers. He's riding in excess of 500 to 600 kilometers usually a week. And the ironic thing is, he doesn't talk about it. So the people who are doing the kilometers are quiet, and the people who are not are broadcasting. You get it. The only way you know what he's doing is if you follow him on Strava. There's nothing to talk about. You go ride your bike, you're having fun. What's to talk about? I don't care how many kilometers you do. Just go ride. It's not the number of kilometers that matter. It's how you ride them. It's like when somebody asks, what was the average speed on the ride? I always laugh on the channel. Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't really care. I had fun. You're trying to keep your average speed up. You won't have any fun. You'd be worried about red lights and everything else. What's the point of that? Worried about average speed, go do a race. They'll close the course. You'll get an average speed that's high. You'll be sitting in a bunch. Doesn't mean anything. I think it's after this light that it happens. The guy's in front of Mark on the right. We're on 105 here heading towards Conroe. I think we're probably already in Conroe. Right here, he pulled off right away, which was smart because you don't want to try to turn you don't want that chain moving because it gets really wedged in there. You have to take the wheel off. So at this point, I'm thinking he had a flat or whatever, so we're just rolling so we can stop up ahead. I like to get off the highway, especially on a morning like this, being really foggy. I don't like to stop, even though this shoulder is wide. You see where this guy is? That's a good spot to be. If you're gonna stop, just go far off the road. If you're gonna repair your flat in a situation like this, even if there's no road that we're on like that, stay to the far edge of the shoulder so you're out of the way. Because when you're not moving, you're not as visible. So in a little bit, they would just come by, and we're surprised because I'm expecting it to be a good weight, like a little weight.
Let's go.
See right here, Paul said, let's go. I see them going. And they're already up to full speed. So at this point, we don't know what's going on. So I made it a point to ask the guy later. I'm waiting for Paul. Now, I'm thinking we're going to go on Highland Hollow, which comes up in about maybe a kilometer and a half after that light. Say a mile. Yeah, a mile's about 1.6 kilometers. So yeah, about a kilometer. Okay. So we've ridden back up to Gerry and them. Because Doug had said that when we got out here, we're going to turn left. Now look at the fog. The fog has always been out here the whole ride. You've noticed it. So for some reason, 2 or 3 of them point left. But the group goes straight because Mark changed the plans at the last minute. So none of us knew about it. Paul and I just go ahead and turn left. Whenever I come out here, I want to do that 15% climb. And plus we found another way to do that area that doesn't go the same route, but is a roundabout, is quieter. I'm looking in the mirror. Paul thinks there's a problem with my bike.
We're turning left.
So I tell him we're turning left. They've already signaled. Then he changes the plan and only tells those guys that are up there. So we don't know. I've gotten on the lane and I've moved to the left lane. I thank the driver. There was a driver behind me. You will see me wave to thank him right there. I thank him for letting me over. Then they go straight. I tell him, Paul, they're going straight.
No, that's what I was asking you. Why are we going left? They're going straight.
Yeah, they're pointing left. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So Paul said, wow. So, it's like, so they pointed left, 2 or 3 people. And besides that, that was the official announcement that Doug gave in the parking lot. And he gets annoyed when you'll see us because.
Yeah.
So we go through the neighborhood and we end up getting in front of them right here. We turn the camera off. This is after the neighborhood. They're behind us. They took the long, easier way around. There they are. So we just exited the neighborhood after doing the climb. So when I end up telling Doug, he's annoyed. He's like, yeah, I wanted to go through there. Mark changed the stuff. You will hear on Little Egypt Road. Then Mark said the reason he changed it was too foggy to turn. I'm like, somehow we managed to turn. But every time we come out here, I like doing those hills. We don't have that many 15%ers. So Gerry said, you guys had good timing. We weren't timing anything. At that point, I told Paul, I said, forget them. We're just going to go ahead and ride. It's like, I don't know what they were doing, but you got to communicate everything with the group. You can't just change the plan at the last minute. Don't tell everybody. If you were going to do that, when we stopped back there, you should have told everybody. We're going to go straight. These guys, I tell you. The group rides have so much drama. Like Peyton Place or Dallas, the soap opera. Oh, man. So, yeah, later on, because it bothered Doug because he really wanted to go through there. And he'll tell us, man, I wanted to go through there. This is Longmire Road. We're more east of the city. The hills out here are not necessarily as intense or as repetitive, but I've got a few. That's Mike. He starts to tell Gerry about KOMs, so I just go ahead and ride up. I figure they want to talk. I'll give him a chance to chat. So Paul is going to come up.
He's giving me a hard time.
That's what Gerry tells Paul as Paul rides by that Mike is giving him a hard time. Mike is telling him, you have a KOM out here, why don't we go for it? Well, it doesn't work like that. Gerry picks specific days and times when he feels like going for a KOM. You can't go for a KOM when there's a serious headwind on the route that your KOM is on. You have to pick a time when you're feeling great, conditions are favorable, then you go for a KOM. Otherwise, you might just get a good time and not get a new KOM. That's the way Gerry's mindset is when he goes after these KOMs. If he's going to try to beat a previous KOM, he's not going to go into a headwind on that day when he set the KOM with a tailwind. That just doesn't make sense. So plus he picks his spot. And why is he going with you? The problem is, they say be careful what you ask for. When Gerry goes for those KOMs, it's really, really fast. And chances are, Mike would have had problems sitting in if Gerry were going for a KOM. So I don't know why he was doing that. So Gerry was not interested in that. That's how Gerry rides. He'll stay off the back, then ride up to the group. It gives him a chance to push himself, but then still have company. I believe that's why he does that, because he does not want to disrupt the normal flow of the group by doing it while pulling. So when he pulls, he really governs his speed. I went to the left of Mike because I did not want to break up my rhythm. Every time you start and stop on a climb, it's inefficient. I like to just keep it steady. It's kind of like the 18-wheelers on the highway. They don't like stopping. Once they get up to speed, they want to just hold it. So a lot of times they don't like little cars getting in front of them, causing them to brake. I have to confess that this bike rolls so much better than the other ones. I think it's because of those wheels. Those wheels once you get up to speed, when you get about 37, 38K, it just seemed easier to keep it rolling. That was my experience on this ride. And I guess that's why I was able to do all this talking with Gerry. Who knows? But that's what I experienced. Everything felt easier. So they do make a difference. I wouldn't train on them every day. They were a little bouncier and less absorbent than my aluminum rims feel like. And I told Paul about that. I was giving him feedback. But yes, they roll well. So if you're doing a TT or an individual ride where you care about speed, you definitely want some deep wheels.
Yeah,
that's Logan making a suggestion to Paul. He asked Paul, have you ever had a professional bike fit?
From raising your saddle at least an inch or two.
No, this
like having
yeah,
a little lower.
Yeah, I like where I am.
I'm laughing because his saddle was 2 inches higher when I met him. And that's why everything hurt. 2 inches is too much. No fitter would tell you raise your saddle an inch or two. An inch is 2.54 centimeters. That's very significant. They might say a centimeter or two, but not an inch or two. So be careful who you get your advice from. He meant well. He sees Paul's riding well, and then Paul appears to look like his saddle is low. Everybody's different. Mike on the right can use a bike fit right there. The blue shirt right here behind Mark. He needs a bike fit. He's rocking all over the place. And the changes don't have to be significant. It's those little changes that dial you in. Every time Mike sits up, his bike does an S. That's a sign that he's not connected to that saddle properly, because that's where your stability comes from. So I told Paul that Logan meant well, because I heard the exchange.
We hear the exchange we just had.
That's what Paul asked me. I said, yeah. I said, I heard it. He meant well. There is a story, I ended up talking about it at the stop. There is a story in the book by Divis Finney, the sprinter, former sprinter with 7-Eleven. In Divis Finney's book, he said that when they were sponsored by Eddie Merckx bicycles, they had to go to the factory. They had to go to the factory for them, I guess, to get fitted or choose their bikes or whatever. With the motor, I think it was 7-Eleven was sponsored by Eddie Merckx bikes, And then what happened is, he said Mark saw him riding and said, I think your saddle needs to be, you know, a little higher or something like that. So Davis Finney said that he didn't change anything, but out of respect for the cannibal, he went to his bike, fiddled with the tool like he was doing something. And then the next time Mark saw him, he said, yeah, it looks better. So you can't do it by looks, okay? When somebody comes to the studio and I'm fitting them, I don't just look at them. I have them do drills, and then I ask them questions. I watch their body movements, okay? You can't look at somebody and say, yeah, your saddle's perfect. No, they'll have to tell you, yeah, I like where it is. And then you can look to see, are there angles, the knee in the range that we're supposed to be in? Because we're all different. We have different sizes of feet. We have different lengths of femur and different things. We're going to all look different on the bike. Some people look like it's too low. That's a problem I have when people show up. Most of my customers have very high saddles. And it's, you know, you end up with issues, with injuries to your knee, and you're pushing down, and you're not comfortable on the bike. Everything hurts. That's what happens because everybody wants to do it by look. Feel is more important.
15, 17, depending on where you ride.
We're talking about a hill now. Mark's asking how steep it
A
was.
couple of people pointed left, and then you guys went straight.
But Mark, he said it was too foggy to cross. I'm like,
We had to
please.
cross somewhere.
That's Doug. Doug said we had to cross somewhere, so it's too foggy to cross. And then a kilometer later, you turn left up the street. Come on, really? Doug really wanted to ride it, but you know, it's okay. We always go through there. We don't come out here that often. I like that area. It's steep. I don't think Mark wanted to ride it. Mark hasn't been training. Mark's been busy with other stuff, so I don't think he wanted to deal with that neighborhood. But what I was saying was that you have to base it on feel, and you need to make sure that every change being made is addressing an issue you have. Don't just take suggestions from people. You know, you have to make sure what are their credits or background. You know, we don't. This guy hasn't said 2 words to us in the months he's been coming to this group. Why should Paul listen to his suggestion on saddle height? Who is he? Is he like the bike fit chief of the world? We don't know that. So you got to bring your certification when you want to give suggestions. You know, what have you done? How many fits have you done? We don't know that. He's going to make a suggestion to somebody. So don't listen to the wrong people in life, period. Whether it's cycling or you want to be successful, listen to successful people. You want to be fast, listen to the people at the front. Don't ask a slow guy, how do I go faster? Oh man, that's funny. I tickle myself sometimes. I've had people tell me my saddle's too low. I just smile. I say, yeah, that's okay. And another thing that they don't understand, they don't need to understand, is the fact that when I met Paul, I asked him about his history. He has a knee that was injured while playing soccer as a kid. All of that matters. You know, if somebody has a displaced hip, all of that, you can't just, I gotta see how you look. No. You gotta set up the bike to meet that person's body. You know? From certain angles, I've told Paul, yeah, it may appear that you look. People have mentioned on the videos that we film, it looks like it's low. No, certain angles it may look that way, but it does not affect his fit on the bicycle, how he controls it, how he feels, because he started out way too high. He was 5 centimeters, which is what he has suggested. He was 5 centimeters, which is about 2 inches too high when I met him. And he said everything hurt. He couldn't even hold a straight line while riding. Bars were off, everything was off. So whoever set him up that way thinks like this guy. So be careful who you listen to. You couldn't pay Paul money to change his setup. He's been there. He's had bad fits. So he gradually, we got him to where, okay, this is optimal for you. for your body, you know. He's at 88% of his leg length, and it's comfortable for him. Nobody needs to ride much higher than that. You don't need to, you need to be able to feel the bottom of the stroke. You look at my feet up there. I'm not doing leg presses. I use the back of my legs. When I get home and my legs are sore, my entire leg is sore in a circle. Front, back, sides, they're all sore. Not just my quads. Because I'm not pushing down only. So please, don't listen to the wrong people. You just waste your time and go through a lot of grief. This is Highway 830, and on this route, we're not turning left like we usually do when we go west. We're going north, and then we're gonna go east to Willis, Texas. What Paul is doing is he was in the wrong gear when he stopped, so he's shifting while stationary by holding the front brake, raising the rear of the bike, and moving your foot. So Doug and I are sitting at the front because we're gonna go straight on this road. We end up riding two abreast. It wasn't planned, but we're just talking. We're talking there and talking about different things, and he was telling me how much he wanted to do that neighborhood and all that kind of stuff. So we were just at the front. I had ridden up with him, and so we're there. So I do a lot of practicing on clipping in. You can never practice enough. I hate searching for my pedal when it's time for me to go. So we're coasting, waiting for these guys to get closer because it takes a while for the group to get going. So once they get closer, then we start to ride. And we just go ahead and do two abreast. There's not a whole lot of traffic on this road. This road goes probably about 5 kilometers, about 3 miles. It will take us up to 1097, which we will take to get across Interstate 45. We're in Conroe, a little southeast of the lake, the main expanse of Lake Conroe. So we're talking. As we continue to ride, what happens is that I coast for quite a bit, and then the RPMs will pick up. But what happens is Doug starts going faster and faster. So I just sit right next to him, and all I try to do is not, how do you call it? When you're riding side by side with someone, you don't want to what we call half wheel them if you can avoid it. So there's a car back there. They were very patient because I didn't see anybody passing us. You don't want to half wheel them if you can avoid it. You want to keep your wheels lined up. Now, there's a tendency for people to constantly go faster and faster and faster because every time the guy half wheels you, you speed up to line up your wheel. Then he thinks you're speeding up, then he speeds up. So I'm saying this so that you're aware when you're riding side by side with someone, if they continue to do that in this situation, just get off the front, go to the back. Let them sit up there because it gets faster and faster to the point where you don't want to go anaerobic just trying to stay next to someone. We're doing almost 40 kilometers. This road is not very flat. I'm surprised it's saying -2. Well, I guess we're rolling here. It's going to pick up. You can see in the distance it's going to go up. It's a pretty road. Paul and I have been down this road once before. It was off camera. They've had construction on the main drag with 1097 for a long time. I stay to the right of all those imperfections in the road, but before I do that, I always let the people behind me know where they are. I point and then I move to the right, because you can go left or right. They're in the spots where the right tire of cars ride, and I'm sure these trucks have been beating up this road. It's going uphill here. You can see, look at my body language in the front there. On the right, I'm focused on pulling up because the muscles in the back of your legs are bigger, they can take more load, and they have more endurance. Your quads are really good for powerful short bursts. So we stay two abreast, and I just decided to stay here until we get off this road because there's nowhere to easily change leaders. My heart rate gets up to 172, which is kind of surprising because even though the terrain's tough, we're not going that hard. That's how come I kind of knew I was a bit probably tired or something. Had a crazy week, so. I stand here, the road goes up. I put in a bigger gear when I stand. And we're gonna be turning left. I was not aware of that. And the stop sign shows up, so this is where we turn off the power. It's gonna take us to 1097. I see that rider on my right. I hear him braking. I move a little to the left. I'm drinking. You always gotta be looking left and right. Anytime you're thinking about changing your line, check. People are always changing positions in the group. The bigger the group, the more you have to do that. And you don't have to turn your head to look. Just kind of look down. You will see whether there's a wheel there.
You're gonna move to the left lane. Cross the interstate.
Mike, Doug's
Get on the
talking. Hold
frontage
on,
road.
Do what, Doug?
You're gonna take the left lane, cross over the highway, get on the northbound frontage.
So what Doug is saying is that we're going to get in the left lane as we enter. This is a construction area. This is the eastern piece of 1097 near 45. Interstate 45 is about 500 meters up the road. So we're going to stay in the left lane here. This is the main lane. The left lane, that's a right lane there. Then we're going to get in the turn lane that comes up in a little bit. But we're going to go under that light, through the light, and to the left, we're going to be using the frontage road of Interstate 45. This will get us in a roundabout way to Willis, Texas, where we're going to get to Shepherd Hill and stop at the lake. We end up filming the scenery at the lake. I think it's kind of neat.
Is anyone riding up Gosling this morning?
I don't know
Are
where.
y'all going up Gosling this morning?
No.
Okay.
No.
I passed a couple of cyclists on Gosling, and it was so dark I couldn't hardly see anyone lit up. I couldn't tell where they were.
Yeah, no, that wasn't it.
So we're going through the intersection here. And we're gonna move to the left. Robert was asking Paul whether we were on Gosling this morning. Well, yeah, we were, but it was very early. I mean, we leave like 6:30. We get on a piece of Gosling that goes to Flint Ridge. He said he passed a couple of cyclists. I don't think we're that hard to see, but I'm not sure what that was. Anyway, we turn left here. That will take us on the frontage road of Interstate 45. We're going to stay on the right. We're going to be going right because Willis is on the right here. Willis, Texas. Then we're turning. Yeah. And this is where we went through a lot of, it's almost like being in a city here. This is a city of Willis, similar downtown streets. They just don't have, I guess, high-rise buildings or so forth. But they have the same little streets where, you know, you go a few yards, stop sign, you turn left, so forth and so on. So, you know, you just got to roll in. It's almost like you're sightseeing, per se. If you notice, most of my moves, I'm gliding. Gradual movements. So everybody knows what you're doing. They go through, it's clear. The only street was on the left. I don't depend on their signals. You have to be watching because things can change from the first guy to the fifth guy or the third guy. Always keep your eyes open, even especially in the bunch. When you're by yourself, you know to do that. But some cyclists get complacent when we're in a group. You still have to watch. Situations change. That's why I put my arm out for the rest of the guys to know. At this moment, we're good. As I go through. Doesn't mean that when you get there, it'll be the same. Yeah, this was kind of a late notice here. But, well, it's okay. This is what I'm talking about. We're in the city. We're outside Willis. We're outside the main drag. You know, they just don't have the volume of people to build all these fancy buildings.
All right, you legends. We're at the north side of the lake. Never been out here. I'm going to go walk over there.
Store away.
I'm going to walk over there. Hold this for me, my brother. Okay. I'm going to put that up when I get back. I'll be right back. Just hold that for me.
I'm going to share
Let me walk this
part
way.
of what we did on Saturday.
Yeah, okay.
Remember, get those Ks in, but have fun while doing it. It's a cute lighthouse down there. Blue and
I don't
white.
know if we can see the bridge. I don't think we can see the bridge from here. Our lake curves, but I wanted to film. This is really pretty. So these guys are unloading.
This is a private marina that we stop at. I got a store.
Fishing over here.
Everything. Guys are fishing.
You see all the way over there, man. That is really cool.
Across the road is the largest expanse of the lake that we usually see while we're crossing the bridge on our right. That's what you see there in the distance. It's really pretty. We've never been up here.
On the way out.